Ellie, and my pronouns are her and she.
I'm Heather, and my pronouns are also she, her.
So I guess my transition is, what do you guys think about California's initiative on Yes Means Yes?
I think that definitely promotes people saying yes when it comes to consent, and that silence doesn't mean yes, because I think when people say, oh, she didn't say no, or he didn't say no, like, it means, like, it's fine because they didn't say no. But now saying that they have to say yes is really, it's a good step.
I agree. I love that it removes a lot of that ambiguity of is silence consent or is just, placid accepting consent? No, it's not. Not unless you say yes.
So my first question to you is, what does affirmative consent mean to you in regarding sex?
I think it changes in the progressive, temporal linear sense of a relationship in that it transfers from verbal to nonverbal. So if you're in more of a starting range or a young range of a relationship, that consent, that affirmative consent to have sex or engage in sexual activity is going to be more of a verbal process than nonverbal. And as you learn to read a person and be with a person, let a person be with you, that changes to more nonverbal instances of repetition and patterns and reading social cues and body language and learning when a person is not okay to be touched and okay to be touched. I think in every relationship, though, there does need to be, to start out with some sort of verbal affirmative consent.
My next question to you then would be, well, what do you guys consider to be consent? It's really ambiguous. A lot of people don't really have the same definition, and it would be really awesome to hear your guys' opinions on it.
From my idea of what consent is, I would say it goes along with California's new law, just like both parties saying yes and agreeing on what they're planning to do, whatever that may be. Not just being like up in the air, like, oh, maybe we could do this or that. Like, yeah, okay, sure. Just really laying out a plan and both parties agreeing. And usually that means being sober too.
Okay.
I would agree, and definitely I feel like consent is also very blurred when you're not sober or you are under the influence of drugs. But for the most part, in those situations, I don't think it counts as consent unless you plan it beforehand and decide that that's what you want to do with your partner.
And so some critics are saying that it might create a he said, she said situation.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Do you feel that that's a possibility in that, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. But it's always been that way, at least from my perspective. You're always going to have he said, she said, and even the evidence that they bring up says that, and the way that lawyers construe things to make one side apparent over the other. That's always the way it has been. It's just different ways of getting at that, in my opinion.
Yeah, especially when it comes to law and court.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. In your opinion, why is affirmative consent a topic that college students should be aware of?
Oh my God. Yes. I generally don't, I'm going to start this out with a little story. I generally don't like people my age, and one of the reasons for that is because I have 6 siblings who the oldest is old enough to be my dad, and the youngest is two youngest are 14 years older than me. My parents are old enough to be my grandparents. I've grown up around people who just have lived 20 years removed from me, at least, for the extent of my life and my upbringing. And that has instilled in me a sense of like previous generational respect for people. So a lot of stuff that people learn in high school and in college, I have been exposed to already just through these nonverbal ways of communicating with my family. And it's made me view the people at my own age group a lot differently, in the sense that I get along with people who are 30 years older much better than I do on average with people who are my age. I'm 20, by the way. And consent has always been a common sense thing for me because of my background and how I've been brought up. But if that's not a common sense thing for you, that's not an okay way to function in society. And especially when college students are in this time of exploration and figuring out who they are, and they are going to get involved with a lot of drugs and sex and experiment with themselves. Great, go ahead and do that. It's a wonderful growing experience, college, but do it with the sense that you're respecting other people. You're not going to hinder their growth in college. You're going to help that. You're going to explore yourself as an individual. And if you don't give someone else the opportunity to say yes, you're essentially saying no to yourself, and that you won't respect another person. And I think it's a huge indicator of how other people treat other people in terms of how they are on the inside. So if college wants to bring up well-rounded, contributing citizens to society, consent is huge.
I guess just like kind of tying in like yes is yes. Also, if like two people do agree on something and then one person changes their mind, to be like, well, you said yes, so it's fine. To be like, no, that's still not consent.
Yeah. So, no, that's really powerful. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, ladies, for sitting tonight and having this discussion. And I really appreciate it. So, thank you. Thank you.
It's a hard topic to make people care about. And I think that a lot of times people aren't going to care about it until they have an experience that shows them otherwise.
Absolutely. So if you had one message kind of to get across to, like, let's say Western's population, if you could just stand in the middle of Red Square and just kind of, preach something, what would it be?
Practicing consent is practicing being a human. I'm letting others be others, and I'm respecting them and valuing them by giving them the space to answer. If I don't give them the space to answer, I'm not giving myself the space to question. I'm also letting others know that they don't need to give me the space to answer. And in those spaces, in that response, that call and response type situation, that's where you get to be an individual. That's where you get to come together with someone. That's where you get to be in a relationship and where you're valued, for me. And that's what I would hope people understand about consent, that it's not just limited to physicality, that it's something that is inherent to our societal interactions.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah!
Thank you so much for your insight and just your opinions and your time. I know this was taking away from your work, so
don't worry
thank
about
you. And it was a pleasure to talk with you.
Yeah, thank you, Allison.
Thank
that was
you.
awesome.